First story. My entitled daughter saved up money to go to a concert. I canceled it and forced her to babysit her stepbrother, as she needs to learn responsibility for a nurse. I let my new wife complain about her to her teachers, then grounded her for crying and humiliating me in front of her friends' parents. Now my ungrateful daughter has abandoned her brother. Throwaway because I have a lot of family friends who browse Reddit. I 43M have a daughter, Kayla 16F, from a previous marriage. Her mother and I split up a long time ago. She initiated the breakup, and truthfully, things got ugly near the end. Without going into too much history, I ended up with full custody after she moved a few hours away for a new job and couldn't realistically be a primary carer. Kayla still visits her mom every few weeks, but 90% of the parenting is on me. I'm not bitter about it. Raising her has been the most rewarding part of my life. For a while, it was just Kayla and me. We were a team. It wasn't perfect, but I always tried to show up for her. We did Sunday morning breakfast runs, watched crap TV together, and had our own inside jokes. I did my best to be both dad and mom when needed, but I'm not going to pretend I always knew what I was doing. Still, she's a good kid, intelligent, stubborn, sarcastic, and ambitious. She wants to be a nurse one day and has her sights set on uni. Then about 4 years ago, I met my now wife at work. We took it slow introducing her into Kayla's life, especially since she'd been through a lot already. My wife 39F has a son from her previous marriage, Max 11M now. Max is autistic, verbal, and sweet, but socially awkward. He doesn't like loud noises, hates change, and can get overwhelmed very easily. The world isn't always built for kids like him. When we moved in together after dating for about a year and a half, it was a big adjustment. Kayla was 13 at the time, going through puberty, dealing with a new stepmom, and suddenly sharing space with a boy she wasn't related to. There were some hiccups. She never really bonded with my wife, even though my wife tried not forcefully, but enough to make it known she wanted a relationship. The bond between Kayla and Max grew bigger. I wouldn't say they're best friends, but Kayla is one of the few people Max trusts. He lights up around her and seeks her out to show her drawings or tell her random facts about anything he's learned. I think part of him sees her as a calming presence. We never expected her to parent him, but she's always been kind to him. She walks him through social situations when we're not around and makes sure he's okay at family functions. Now here's where things start to unravel. Kayla has been obsessed with the band Muse since she was 12. Posters on the walls, every album downloaded, you get the picture. Earlier this year, she found out they were touring in the UK and practically begged me to let her go. I was hesitant. It was in another city. She'd be traveling with a group of friends, and I'm not thrilled about the idea of 16-year-olds navigating public transport for a concert. But she was persistent. She promised they'd stay together, said the parents of one of the girls were doing the drop-off and pick-up, and laid out the whole plan like a proposal. I told her the only way it was happening was if she paid for the ticket herself. She took that seriously. She started babysitting for our neighbors, washing cars on weekends, and helping out with admin tasks at my friend's small business. She even saved birthday money. After a couple of months, she had had enough and bought her ticket. She was over the moon. Now here's the issue. Kayla has always been a little hot-headed. She doesn't do fake politeness. If she's upset, This has caused tension between her and my wife over the years. They're civil, but the undercurrent is there. Small things. My wife asking her to help with the dishes and getting an eye roll. My wife reminding her to clean her room and Kayla muttering under her breath. Nothing extreme, but enough that I sometimes feel like I'm playing referee. Last year, they had a huge blow-up. Max had a meltdown during dinner. Kayla was already stressed from school, and she said something along the lines of, "Why is it always my problem?" My wife snapped back that it wasn't fair to Max, and Kayla fired off with, "He's not my brother." That one hit hard. We had a long talk afterwards. Kayla apologized to me and said she didn't mean it like that. I believe her, but my wife has never quite let it go. Fast forward to this month. The concert was set for a Saturday. Everything was in place. She was counting down the days. Then 2 days before the concert, my wife gets a call her cousin had been in a car accident. They grew up together like sisters, and she was understandably panicked. My wife wanted to be there. The cousin lives a couple of hours away, so it wasn't a quick visit. She needed to stay overnight and provide support. Of course, I said I'd go with her. She was a wreck, and I didn't want her driving alone or staying in a hospital alone. But then came the problem, Max. He can't be left alone, even for short periods. We've tried babysitters before, and it did not go well. It's not worth the risk. No family nearby who can handle him. No friends we'd trust with his specific needs on such short notice. That left one option. Kayla. We asked if she could stay home and look after Max. Just for the day and evening. We told her we understood how important the concert was. But we were in a bind, and this was an emergency. She was absolutely furious. Said we were punishing her for being the only responsible one in the house. Said we always pick Max over her. Not true. But I understand how it might feel that way sometimes. She said she spent months earning that money and planning with her friends. And now we were yanking it away because we couldn't be bothered to figure something else out. She was right about one thing. We didn't have another option. But I didn't say that. My wife stepped in, sat her down and, as calmly as possible, told her this is what being an adult sometimes looks like. That if she wants to be a nurse, she needs to learn what it means to step up when people are relying on her. She said Max needed her. And this wasn't just about her night. It was about family. That's when Kayla blew up again. You're not my real mom. You don't get to lecture me. I told her that was out of line, and that we'd talk more when everyone was calm. She stormed off and didn't come out for the rest of the day. The next morning, the day of the concert, she refused to come downstairs or talk. I reminded her that this wasn't punishment. We'd try to make it up to her. She said she didn't care, and that she wasn't going to be our free babysitter every time something happened. But in the end, she stayed home, took care of Max. I don't know how it went exactly. He was fine when we got back the next day, and she was holed up in her room. They both had eaten, and everything looked okay. That was a week ago. Since then, Kayla hasn't said a word to either of us. She goes to school, comes home, and disappears into her room. She won't eat with us. She ignores my wife entirely. I tried following up gently, and even told her again we'd reimburse the concert ticket. But she said the money wasn't the issue. It was the experience. Her friends went, had an amazing time, and sent her clips from the concert. She spent all weekend in her room watching them post on social media. Told me she felt humiliated and left out. Said she didn't even respond to them because she was embarrassed to explain why she couldn't go. And I get that. She's 16. That kind of social exclusion stings more than anything. But again, I don't feel like we were wrong. This wasn't us playing favorites. It was an emergency. She's now dragging in old stuff, calling us out for always expecting her to act like the adult when it's convenient. She brought up how we've skipped her school plays or canceled weekend plans if Max had a bad day. She says she's tired of being the fallback plan just because Max trusts her. Some of that is true. She is the only one Max opens up to besides us. And yeah, in the past, we've lent on that a few times when plans went sideways. But it's never been intentional or malicious. Still, I see now that this has been building. There was another incident last year. We were supposed to go away for a weekend as a family. Max had a meltdown the night before, so we canceled. She lost it and said we always cancel for him, never for her. I told her we're doing our best to balance everything, and she said, "Your best sucks for me." She's not wrong that she carries weight most kids her age don't. I do believe she loves Max, but she didn't sign up to be a second parent. And that's how she sees it. My wife thinks this is just a phase that Kayla will cool off and eventually understand. But I'm not so sure. The anger feels deeper this time, more personal, and it's now clearly tied to my wife. They've never clicked. Kayla tolerates her, nothing more. My wife has been firm but fair, in my opinion. She's tried. She drives Kayla to school when I can't. Helps with meals. Give her space. But Kayla doesn't want a relationship there, and I've respected that up to a point. After the concert thing, though, Kayla's line about, "You're not my real mum," wasn't just heat of the moment. She said it before in arguments, and my wife's had enough. She told me if Kayla continues treating her like a stranger, she's done trying. Said, "If I'm good enough when Max needs her, then I'm good enough to get some basic respect the rest of the time." It's hard to argue with that. Now I'm stuck. I love my daughter. I see her side. But I also think we made the best call we could in a tough situation. My wife's cousin nearly died. Max couldn't be left alone. We didn't have other options. And it's not like we asked Kayla to skip prom or miss an exam. It was a concert. One night. A big one, yes, but still. Life happens. Emergencies don't schedule themselves. But Kayla's treating it like betrayal. She said it wasn't just about missing a concert, it was about trust. She told me, "You said you had my back. But when it came down to it, you backed her." That cut deep. And now I'm starting to wonder if I've messed up. Maybe I lent too hard on her over the years. Maybe she's not just angry, maybe she's burnt out. I don't want her growing up thinking she was never allowed to be a kid. But I also don't think she's above stepping up when family needs help, especially when the person needing her was Max. I'm not apologizing for expecting her to help this once, but I'm also not ignoring how she feels now. The silence in the house is heavy. And no, I don't regret supporting my wife. She was right to prioritize her cousin. But I don't know how to reach Kayla without caving to the idea that she's the only one who ever sacrifices anything. So here I am, Reddit. I've been a single dad. I've been the remarried guy. I'm trying to be fair. But maybe I'm blind to the fact that asking your 16-year-old daughter to miss something this important to her, no matter the reason, was just too much this time. Ada. Comments. Comment 1. You're in an impossible spot, mate. But I think this is more about your wife than you're willing to admit. That lecture she gave Kayla. Totally out of line. I don't care how calmly she said it, telling a 16-year-old that she needs to suck it up for character development, while missing something she's worked months towards. Tone deaf as hell. Let's not forget, Kayla's been tolerating your wife. They've never clicked, and from what you've described, your wife expects respect she hasn't fully earned. Kayla's not rude from what I gather. She's just not playing house with someone who clearly doesn't understand where she's coming from. Your wife used Max as a tool in that convo. You want to be a nurse? Then act like a third parent to my son. That's manipulative. Doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. That's how it landed. You're NTA for the decision itself, but your wife kind of is. And you're skirting close to Esh if you keep excusing her delivery. Kayla's drawing a boundary right now. Respect it. Don't rush her to move on just because you feel guilty now. Comment 2. YTA. Your special needs stepson is not your daughter's responsibility. That's on you and your wife, full stop. Your daughter earned that concert. She hustled for months. And your solution when things got tough was to dump the responsibility of parenting your wife's child onto your child. Come on, man. And don't give me the emergency excuse. Your wife wasn't the one injured. She could have gone alone. You're not her emotional crutch, and being present for her cousin doesn't require two adults if one has to sacrifice their kids' once-in-a-lifetime experience. She made the choice, and you let your daughter pay the price. The worst part? You let your wife shame your kid for having feelings. If you want to be a nurse someday, get out of here with that patronizing guilt trip. She's not training on the job for you. She's not your in-house carer. She's a 16-year-old girl who wanted to see her favorite band. You failed her, and you don't even seem to realize how deep it cut. YTA, without question. Comment 3. Huge YTA. You broke a promise. You knew how much this meant to her, and you pulled the rug out. Don't hide behind, we didn't have another choice. You had plenty. You could have stayed home. Your wife isn't a helpless toddler. She could have visited her cousin without you. Hell, she could have brought her own son if she was so determined. But instead, you both looked at your teenage daughter and decided, yeah, she can give up her one big night. And then your wife has the audacity to turn it into a life lesson. You need to be more responsible for her child. Nah. She doesn't get to play mom when it's convenient, and then hand out emotional lectures when Kayla sets a boundary. What's worse, you didn't stand up for Kayla once. You watched it all happen. Let her be treated like an afterthought. You're not just the RC hole, you're the reason she's not talking to you now. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she starts counting the days until she can move out and never look back. Update. So a lot has happened since my original post, and honestly the situation has only gotten more frustrating from my side. I know plenty of commenters told me I was wrong, but things at home have made it pretty clear Kayla's behavior is only getting worse. I'm not posting for judgment this time, just updating, because the tension in the house has escalated far beyond what I expected. About a week after the concert mess, Kayla had a meeting at school with her form tutor and the deputy head. Her grades have dipped, and apparently she's been withdrawn and not participating in group work. I got the email and told my wife we should both go. She agreed and said it was important that the school see a united parental front, especially since Kayla has been testing boundaries. I didn't tell Kayla her stepmother was coming. I didn't think it was necessary. She should have assumed both parental figures would attend something this important. When she walked into the meeting room and saw my wife sitting beside me, she froze. Didn't sit down at first. The teachers noticed the tension immediately, which already made things awkward. Kayla stayed quiet while the staff talked about her academic slide, and then the teacher gently asked if anything at home was distracting her. Kayla looked straight at me and said, "I'm fine." My wife jumped in, and told them Kayla has been very emotional and uncooperative lately and might be struggling with responsibility. Kayla immediately snapped. "Stop talking about me like I'm not here." It was embarrassing. I told her to lower her voice, and she did, but she went stiff and refused to participate further. The meeting ended with the school recommending more structure at home. My wife latched onto that like gospel. After the meeting, we sat her down in the living room. She stood with her arms folded, avoiding eye contact. My wife started with, "Kayla, we need to address your behavior." That set the tone. We told her the school thinks she needs clearer expectations and that some emotional maturity is lacking. She fired back that the only thing affecting her schoolwork is the fact we ruined her biggest event of the year, and then blamed her for reacting like a normal human being. My wife stayed calm but firm. She said Kayla's been unreliable lately and needs to take responsibility for how she affects the household. I agreed, and I told her she needs to understand that being part of a family means stepping up when needed. That's when Kayla said, "You don't get to talk about responsibility when you dump your responsibilities on me." I told her that was out of line. She ignored that and said, "You always choose them. Every time." My wife rolled her eyes and said, "This again?" Kayla turned on her and said, "You treat me like I'm supposed to help raise your son, and Dad lets you." I told Kayla she was blowing things out of proportion and acting like a victim. That's when she stopped yelling and switched to this cold, steady tone I've never heard from her. She said, "I am not helping with Max anymore. Not unless I feel like it. I'm done being the backup parent." My wife looked offended and said, "You don't get to just opt out of being part of the family." Kayla said, "I do when you treat me like free labor." It escalated from there, with Kayla insisting she wanted no more childcare expectations placed on her. I told her that was ridiculous because Max sees her as a comfort person. She shrugged and said, "Not my problem." The conversation ended with her walking upstairs and slamming her door. At that point, I figured it was typical teenage dramatics, until a few days later when things got worse. I received a call from one of the parents in Kayla's friend group, the same parent who drove them to the concert. She said Kayla had been avoiding her daughter and seemed distressed, so her daughter kept asking what happened. Eventually, Kayla told her the truth about why she missed the concert. The mum said Kayla broke down crying while explaining everything and was clearly overwhelmed. Then she asked me very carefully if everything was okay at home. I saw red. I told her nothing inappropriate was happening, and that Kayla was being dramatic and telling half-truth. The woman hinted that it sounded like a lot of responsibility for a 16-year-old, and that maybe Kayla felt unsupported. I ended the call quickly because the implication irritated me. When I confronted Kayla later and told her not to speak about private family matters with outsiders, she said, "I didn't." They asked why I cried. I told her she made us look like abusers. She shot back, "If you don't want to look like abusers, stop treating me like a convenience." I lost my temper and told her she was acting like a spoiled brat who wants sympathy and plays victim at the slightest challenge. She threw back, "Sure, wait, you keep saying I'm part of the family, but you only mean it when you need something from me." My wife stepped in and said Kayla needed consequences for disrespect. She claimed Kayla's fixation on her hurt feelings was making her self-centered. I agreed that she needed correction, and we implemented grounding no social outings until her attitude improves. Kayla simply said, "Fine, whatever." But here's the part that really concerns me. She's detached. Not angry, not sulking, detached. Doesn't speak unless spoken to. Does her chores silently. Completely ignores Max, not rudely, just nothing, like he doesn't exist. Max has even asked, "Why does Kayla not talk to me?" And I didn't have an answer. We tried talking it through again, but Kayla said she's done being everyone's emotional safety net. She told us she's simply counting down the days until she can move out. My wife says Kayla is manipulating us with emotional withdrawal. I still think Kayla is being immature and refusing to see the bigger picture. But I'll admit the atmosphere in the house feels off, like something broke. That's the update. Not sure what to do next, but I still don't think expecting responsibility from her was unreasonable. My wife agrees completely. Kayla will just have to come around eventually. Comments. Comment 1. You're doing that thing narcissistic parents do where they punish their kid for how the kid reacts to mistreatment, rather than the mistreatment itself. Your daughter broke down crying to another parent because she's overwhelmed, not because she's playing victim. But instead of asking why she's cracking, you're pissed she made you look bad. That's some self-centered bullshit. Let's be clear. Your wife doesn't see Kayla as her daughter. She sees her as a resource. And you've become the enforcer. Kayla says, I won't help anymore. And you go into damage control like you just lost an employee. She's a child. One who's clearly been giving more than she ever signed up for. She took a stance, and instead of respecting it, you doubled down with punishment. You're not building a family, you're running a hostage situation. Comment 2. This is what happens when you mistake silence for compliance. You thought Kayla was handling it. But what she was really doing was bottling everything up until she couldn't anymore. And when she finally broke the pattern by speaking up, setting a boundary, and asking to be seen, you punished her for it. Of course, she's shutting down. You've made it clear her emotional safety comes second to your wife's convenience. And don't get me started on that grounding. You're grounding her for not wanting to be your second carer, for telling the truth about how she felt, for crying in front of a parent who actually noticed something was wrong. You're so caught up in defending your wife's ego that you're torching your relationship with your own kid. Keep going like this, and Kayla won't come around. She'll disappear the moment she turns 18. Comment 3. Here's the part you still don't get. Kayla didn't explode out of nowhere. She's been screaming in quiet ways for a long time, avoiding, withdrawing, pushing back softly, and you ignored it every time until she finally had to get loud. And when she did, you punished her. She's done helping with Max. That's not rebellion. That's self-preservation. And it's overdue. Your wife can cry about family all she wants, but she clearly sees Kayla as an asset, not a daughter. And you're co-signing it every time you enforce her rules and back her tone-deaf lectures. Kayla isn't manipulating you with detachment. She's surviving you. You broke the trust, you violated boundaries, and now you're angry that she doesn't perform daughterhood on demand. Keep going down this path, and the only thing you'll get from her at 18 is a change of address and radio silence. Update. Things have gotten worse at home, and honestly, I'm exhausted. My daughter's behavior has changed so drastically that at this point, I'm convinced she's choosing to be difficult. My wife and I have tried several approaches, talking calmly, family meetings, consequences, even incentives, and nothing gets through to her. I'm not sure what Reddit expects from parents in our situation, but we're not magicians. We can't fix someone who refuses to work with us. After the last update, Kayla's withdrawal only intensified. She didn't participate in meals, barely spoke, and moved around the house like a guest who resents being there. She'd come home from school, go straight upstairs, then leave again without explanation. We found out she was spending all her time at a friend's house, but wouldn't tell us which friend. When we tried asking, she said, anywhere but here. That's all we got. Eventually, we decided the lack of structure was feeding her attitude. My wife suggested temporarily limiting her phone and internet access, not as punishment, but to reset her focus and reduce the outside noise, which I agreed with. We weren't banning her from anything, just removing distractions. We collected her phone at night and restricted Wi-Fi access to her laptop. Immediately, she went from distant to completely uncooperative. She refused to tell us where she was going after school, ignored basic questions, and came home past agreed times. We enforced curfew, and she acted like we had no authority. When I told her this behavior was unacceptable, she said, "You don't get to talk about trust after what you did." She repeated that line so many times it became meaningless. Then came the incident with Max. Since Kayla had a hard boundary that she wouldn't help with him at all, we tried hiring a new babysitter recommended by a colleague. We explained Max's needs, routines, and sensitivities, but you can only prepare someone so much. Within an hour, Max had a panic episode when the sitter tried to redirect him during a sensory moment. He locked himself in the bathroom, cried, and wouldn't open the door. We rushed home to find the babysitter shaken, apologizing nonstop. She said she couldn't continue. When Max saw Kayla later, and she didn't acknowledge him, he asked, "Why does she not like me now?" It was heartbreaking. Kayla's only response was, "Ask your mom." My wife was furious. She pulled Kayla aside and said, "You're making this harder on him on purpose." Kayla didn't even blink, she just said, "That's your problem, not mine." My wife told her that cruelty isn't a boundary. Kayla said, "You made me his emotional support animal. I quit." I tried telling her she was being unfair, that Max had nothing to do with our argument, but she said, "He's not the problem. You two are." Then she walked out. 3 days later, she still wasn't speaking to us. We thought maybe a gesture would help, something meaningful that shows we want to rebuild. So we bought her a ticket to a different concert she's mentioned once or twice. It wasn't Muse, but it was a band she likes. We presented it as a peace offering, saying we wanted to start fresh. She stared at the envelope, then pushed it back and said, "You think you can erase what happened with a random ticket? You don't even know what bands I actually care about." My wife said she was being ungrateful, and Kayla replied, "You don't listen to anything I say. That's the whole point." She left before we could even finish the conversation. The following week, her mum called something she rarely does unless it's about visitation. Apparently, Kayla had spoken to her about everything, and now her mum was in concerned parent mode. She started by asking if everything was okay at home, which immediately set me off because she's never lifted a finger beyond occasional Saturdays. She doesn't get to question our parenting. I explained the situation, Kayla's attitude, how we've been trying different strategies, how she's been disrespectful and shutting down, how the concert issue was an unavoidable emergency, and how we're doing our best. Her mum didn't offer help, didn't offer to take Kayla for a bit nothing. She just lectured us, saying Kayla feels unheard and needs emotional space. I told her if she thinks she can do better, she's welcome to take Kayla full time. She dodged that completely and instead said she doesn't want to disrupt Kayla's school year. Convenient. By the end of the call, nothing was resolved. My wife pointed out that Kayla's mum swoops in with criticism, but never actual support, and honestly, she's right. I refuse to take parenting advice from someone who barely parents. Meanwhile, Kayla keeps pushing her distance further. She started working shifts at a cafe near school, something we only found out because a neighbor saw her behind the counter. When we confronted her about hiding a job, she said she wants financial independence so she can leave the second it's legal. I told her that's ridiculous because she has no idea what adult expenses look like. She said, "Anything's better than living here." My wife tried to talk to her calmly that evening, but Kayla didn't even look up from her desk. She just said, "I don't trust you. Stop acting like this can be fixed with talks or treats." We told her we're trying everything: communication, consequences, boundaries, and incentives. She said, "You're trying everything except admitting what you did." She's twisting the entire narrative, so she's the victim and we're villains. She won't acknowledge that emergencies happen, that parents sometimes have to make hard calls, or that she's part of a family unit that needs cooperation. Instead, she's shutting down, blaming us for everything, and refusing to meet us halfway. At this point, I genuinely don't know what else to do. We've tried every approach. She rejects all of them. She's choosing distance, choosing bitterness, and choosing to act like she's oppressed, rather than part of a family that's done everything to support her. We're not perfect parents, but we're doing our best. And she's making it impossible. Comments. Comment 1. This is like watching someone torch their relationship with their kid, and then complain about the smoke. You keep saying you've tried everything, but somehow you've never tried listening without control or consequences. That's not everything. That's manipulation wrapped in parenting language. She told you exactly what she needed: space, autonomy, and boundaries. You responded by taking her phone, tracking her movements, and buying her a concert ticket for a band she doesn't even care about. She's building her escape plan in real time, and you're still calling her bitter, like she hasn't been waving the white flag for months. You didn't lose your daughter because of one concert. You lost her because you consistently chose your new family's comfort over her emotional safety. And now that she's finally checking out, you're painting her as the problem. She's not bitter. She's just done. Comment 2. You see the job, the distance, and the emotional flatlining, and you know something's wrong. But every time you hit that wall, you flip it around and say, "See, she's rejecting us." No, man. She's rejecting the constant invalidation. The way you talk about her mum is also telling. You don't respect her input, but you're also furious that she won't take Kayla full time. The exact same thing you did to Kayla with Max. You offload the hard stuff, and then get offended when people won't carry it for you. Kayla's done telling you what she needs. You didn't listen when she had a voice. Now she's using silence. You won't get her back with rules or rewards. At this point, you'll be lucky if you don't lose her completely. Update. Didn't plan on coming back, but a few things have happened, and I'm not really sure how to process it all. I guess I just need to write it down. Kayla left a few months ago. Not dramatically, no blow up, no final screaming match, just gone. I came home one Friday evening to find her room mostly cleared out. I found out through her mum that she'd moved in with her and would be finishing her last term from there. Her mum was very matter-of-fact about it. Said, "She needs space. You knew this was coming." I guess I did. We still got her university letters through the house. She got into a nursing program, her top choice. I forwarded it to her mum's address. No reply. Not even a thanks. A few weeks ago, we received a letter from Kayla. She thanked us for the roof over her head, for the early memories, for the good times before things got bad. She said she doesn't hate us, but that she doesn't feel safe coming back. She said she felt used, unheard, and erased. That she tried to talk and to draw boundaries, and every time we responded with guilt, lectures, or silence. She said she hopes we take care of Max, and that she wishes him peace. But that she's building a life without us now and wants no further contact. My wife took it harder than I expected. She cried on and off for a week. Hasn't been herself since. She keeps saying she just wanted a relationship with Kayla. But now that she's gone, she claims Kayla twisted everything. She won't talk to anyone outside the house and avoids going into Kayla's old room. I've been holding it together for her. Max isn't doing great. He doesn't fully understand what happened, just that Kayla doesn't live here anymore. He asks where she is. Sometimes, he stims harder than usual or shuts down completely when we mention school or routine changes. We tried a new babysitter again. He locked himself in the closet for 2 hours and wouldn't speak. And through all of this, I keep thinking, how did we get here? We did what we could. We asked her to step up during emergencies. We gave her space when she asked for it. We tried to offer peace offerings. I supported my wife. I tried to hold the family together. But none of it mattered. Not to her. She walked away, and we're the ones left picking up the pieces. So yeah, Kayla got her future, her independence, her freedom. And we lost a daughter. Guess I just didn't expect it to end like this. Comments. Comment 1. Even now, with everything that's happened, you're still centering yourselves. Your wife is crying. Max is shutting down. You're picking up the pieces. And still, you can't bring yourself to say, we failed her. You supported your wife, but never your daughter. Not when she said she was tired. Not when she asked for space. Not when she begged to just be a teen, not a carer. You heard her words and immediately turned them into lessons about responsibility and structure. She's gone now. And yeah, it's quiet. Because when someone's entire life has been screaming and still being ignored, silence is freedom. I hope you sit with it. I hope you don't forget how it sounds. Comment 2. Here's what stings about your whole attitude. You still don't see her as a person. You see her as a symbol. A daughter. A helper. A name on the mail. But not someone who begged, pleaded, and then walked when none of that worked. You're reading her goodbye like it's some passive-aggressive note on the fridge. It was her final act of dignity, and you missed it. She gave you every chance. She wasn't petty. She didn't blow up your house or badmouth you online. She just left. That takes strength. And yeah, Max is hurting. I'm sorry for him, genuinely. But don't lay that at her feet. Lay it at yours, where it belongs. You didn't lose everything. You refused to change, and everything left you. Second story. Thought my husband was cheating. Gave him another chance to change, but he was just hiding, and he is worse than I had imagined. Posting anonymously because I don't want anyone I know to find out what's going on with my marriage. I'm so embarrassed. When I was first married, my husband had no interest in gambling. When it started, it was just a few casual bets on football. It has gotten out of control. He doesn't just bet on his football team now. He bets on matches in other countries, such as American football or baseball. He even bets on individual sports such as golf and Formula 1. He gets angry at individual players if they don't do the things he needs to win his bet. It's more important than his team winning. I couldn't stand how much his gambling was costing us. At first, I thought he was cheating with the way he was acting. I was devastated when I found out he was betting. I wanted a divorce, but he begged me to stay and go to counseling. He said this was a wake-up call and that he would never gamble again. We were going to counseling together, and he's in individual counseling as well. He said he has stopped gambling, but he was lying this entire time. He has been in trouble with the police. They told me police in a different country were investigating posts from social media that threatened a player there, and it was traced back to my husband. My husband lost a bet and blamed that player. I'm not giving him another chance. I'm moving out this week, and I'll be seeking a divorce. When I confronted him, he told me he never stopped gambling and was just saying what I wanted to hear. I can't believe how stupid and naive I was. Comments. Commenter 1. Don't you dare blame yourself. You did the right thing. You gave him a second chance. He blew it. Not you. Never feel guilty for being a sympathetic and reasonable person. Shame on him for failing you as your partner. And shame on him for being a piece of SHT. Maybe now that the police are involved, This may really be the wake-up call he needed. However, you are not obligated to give him a third chance, and good for you for not doing so. Now give yourself the same grace you gave him, and put your life back together how you want it. Make yourself happy. OP. Maybe now that the police are involved, this may really be the wake-up call he needed. I was so embarrassed when I found out what he did, and that the police are involved. My husband doesn't seem to share my feelings. He wasn't embarrassed or bothered by this at all. I have found out that gambling on sports is becoming more and more of a problem. I never thought it would happen to me. Commenter 2. I'm really sorry you're going through this. It's an addiction that's going to need far more than just couples counseling. Recovery is possible, but you've got to do what you need to protect yourself and your financial present and future as well. With how it sounds like he's escalating, he may find himself in major debt, or even worse if he doesn't actually get help. I will be the rare one to say don't rush to divorce just yet, but starting to reserve and secure finances on your own that he does not have access to should be your first and top priority. Make sure you start having money in your own account away from his or a shared one. Change your passwords on your bank accounts and card information, and don't tell him them. Do tell him you are separating yourself financially, though. Take over bills, check your credit scores, and make sure he hasn't dragged you or your money into his addiction. Then after that, you can start issuing more boundaries and even ultimatums about him getting help, or you will walk for good. Counseling and individual therapy for both of you would be good as well. I know it's a lot, but you can at least then say you tried everything. And then if you do officially divorce and leave him to his own devices, you will have your own finances available and established already anyway. OP. My husband was going to individual counseling, and I had set boundaries. We were also in couples counseling. None of it made a difference. I will not be giving him another chance. He already had one. As I said in my post, I'll be seeking a divorce. There is nothing my husband or anyone else can say to make me change my mind. Commenter 2. I hear you. That's why I said he needs actual help with the gambling, and to go to treatment for that and Gamblers Anonymous, not just counseling. Your feelings and decision are completely valid. Nobody should fault you here. All addictions affect far more than just the addict. I just know how hard it is to decide on divorce. I hope you are able to live a stress-free and financially stable life, as well as heal from the heartbreak you have experienced. My ex-husband was a drug addict who became extremely abusive in every way possible. I asked him to choose rehab or divorce. He made a third opening of cheating on me, so I chose divorce for him. I know it's not the same kind of addiction, but you get the point. You are making the right choice for your life. Good luck, and hopefully he's able to break the addiction before he ruins anyone's life, especially his own. OP. I am sorry about what happened with your ex-husband, and I hope you are doing well now. The counselor my husband was seeing wasn't the same one we went to for marriage counseling. She is a counselor for people with a gambling addiction. She also had him going to a support group. But he still lied to me and kept gambling the entire time. Once he admitted he was only saying what I wanted to hear, I knew there was nothing else I could do to save our marriage. Update. I moved out a month ago. I had already told him I was going to be seeking a divorce. He doesn't want a divorce even though he outright admitted to me that he kept lying and only saying what I wanted to hear. On top of that, he wasn't at all embarrassed or bothered about being in trouble with the police. There is no way I can stay married to him. The divorce process formally began this past week, and I was clear with him about not wanting to see him or have contact ever again. I am trying to move on. Thank you to everybody who left encouraging comments for me last time. They really did help. I did receive multiple messages saying I was being too sensitive or a stupid woman, but I just deleted them and have turned off the chat feature now. I appreciate everybody who was encouraging. I never thought something like this would happen to me. My husband didn't start betting until a few years into our marriage. Back then it was casual and only about football. Then he started betting on other sports, such as American football and basketball, and it got worse. I never expected anything like this to happen to me, and I feel so naive and stupid for believing he was trying to change. It was all a lie. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm so sorry you've experienced this and been treated like this. It's incredibly hurtful, painful, and isn't fair. Allow yourself time to grieve, be angry, feel betrayed, and feel bereaved. You've lost a lot, and it's someone else's fault, someone you trusted and loved. It's going to take time to recover from that, gradually. Your anger may give you adrenaline that dissipates eventually and leave you feeling more bereft or lost. There's so much strength coming from you harness that to help you move forward. Don't let him hold you back. Well done on making it this far already. And I hope life treats you better in the future. Commenter 2. This sounds really positive, and I admire your strength. Just be gentle with yourself. You're going through a lot. You are not stupid or naive for not seeing this coming. Addicts go to great lengths to lie and hide what they're doing. I'm so glad you're doing everything you can to protect yourself now. Good luck. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.